There we go. Welcome to Ben The Menace. Welcome back. Hey, anybody who's tuned in for all these episodes, I'll suck your dick. Actually. Like, it just means so much to me. If anybody actually enjoys all these episodes, it would mean so much to me. So please like, comment, subscribe. Write me a review that says, hey, Ben, this is better than 1 out of 10. That's what I get on most reviews. Most of my YouTube channel is people going, I'll give it a 1 out of 10. That's honestly the vast majority of it. So if you're enjoying this and you're tuning in regularly, you're a saint. Seriously. The painting of you should be on the ceiling of the Vatican. Is that what did Leonardo da Vinci paint on the ceiling of the Vatican? Am I right about that? Thank you, Sistine Chapel. I'm Jewish. I don't know any of this stuff. They told us growing up in Hebrew school, they said, if you remember the distinction between the Sistine Chapel and the Vatican, you can't come back here. You're not allowed back in temples. So I'm being a good Jew right now. One of those Christian places, Catholic, whatever the fuck it is, on the ceiling, you should be there if you're watching this right now. So thank you. I just got back from Arizona. Kelvin, my videographer who's behind me, you might be eating an orange later. So if you hear someone peeling and sucking on something, if you go, oh, what is that? Is a pornography being filmed behind the camera? No, it's Kelvin sucking on an orange. He goes, hey, I might be sucking on this. I'm like, oh, perfect timing, man. Just took us 5 hours to set up. You want to wait until the second we start shooting to start sucking an orange down? You fucking psychopath. Kelvin was actually supposed to come. I went and did some shows in Tucson. They're very fun. I was just hosting. I was just a little bitch boy at the beginning of the show. When people walk in and they go, what does this guy work here? I was that guy. It was fun. I had a lot of fun. The shows were great. It's so nice to be able to do multiple shows, multiple nights in a row. It's the best. If I could do that every weekend, I would be a significantly better comic. What's too bad is I'm doing that next month, and I don't know when I'm doing that again afterwards. But if I did that every weekend, man, I'm so jealous of headlining comics. It's like a catch-22. It's like you have to be good enough to be able to sell tickets, to be able to do 4 to 6 shows in a city consecutively. And then when you start doing that, I can't imagine you not getting so much fucking better because you're on stage so much. That's beside the point. Hey, Bert Kreischer, more power to you, but I'm really fucking jealous of you because you're on tour constantly and you just get this amazing stage time all the time. Yeah, fuck his movie. I don't give a shit about his fucking machine movie. I'm talking about the stand-up stuff. Yeah, he's got a movie based on a bit that he's done. And more power to him there, too. Hey, I'm in L.A. You know what L.A. is the capital of? Pretending to be happy for people. I'm really happy for you, Bert. Congratulations on the thing I don't give a shit about. That's L.A. in a nutshell. So Kelvin was supposed to come with me to Arizona. Kelvin and I arranged a month in advance. I'm not a rich man. I think you can tell. I've actually said that to people who rolled their eyes at me because it was so obvious that I'm not a rich man. I'm not rich, and they go, I know. You don't have to say that before you say the next thing. So I wanted a free place to stay in Arizona. Kelvin goes, hey, we can stay with my cousin. We call his cousin, honestly, like a month or two ago. Spoke on a 3-way conversation. His cousin was more than open to it, thought it was cool. And then I'd say less than 48 hours before we were supposed to drive in Kelvin's Tesla to Arizona, Kelvin texts me and goes, I have some bad news about the trip. And he didn't just, it would be, what would be nice? Just go, hey man, I can't make it. He goes, I have some bad news. Let's talk later. It's already like fucking midnight, the night before we're supposed to. It's like, when are we going to talk? 3 a.m? I know what the bad news is. You can't go. Which is fine. It's a little late, but it's fine. He got it. The problem is, I get what I pay for, I have no money. I'm not paying. Kelvin's a generous guy. He's helping me out with this. And I can't pay him because I don't have anything. I'm wearing Amazon brand shoes right now. That's a bit I did on stage in Arizona. Not that what I just did, but like I talked about the shoes. There's more to it. Uh, and you know, and that was the last Kelvin and I talked until today. He goes, "Hey, I have some bad news." I go, "Hey, let me read your mind, man. I think you're not coming. I'll just start driving to Arizona." And I stayed with his cousin. I stayed with my videographer's cousin. And I don't we don't know each other. And he's a nice dude, but we don't fucking know it. He was like, "Hey, who are you? Good to meet you, but who are you?" That's a nice. You're a generous guy, Kelvin. Your cousin's even more generous. He let pretty much a complete stranger stay in his house. Who drove like all night to get to. He let me in at 2 a.m. and didn't think it was weird. What a nice guy. He really is a nice guy. Yeah, of course. I mean, if Kelvin wasn't part of this, of course I'm not just walking up to some stranger's house in Phoenix and staying there for free. Kelvin said, you know, you should let Ben stay here. But the idea was that we were going to stay there together. The whole premise was, you're related to this guy. We're staying with him. It's very nice. It was nice to stay with him. He's a good dude. And Kelvin got a paying gig, and I pay Kelvin nothing. So sometimes I get nothing. That's how it goes. If I had more money, I could. It would be a different game. The shows were great. It was a lot of fun. Tucson was fun. I might dive into that a little throughout this. Friday shows, not quite sold out. Maybe a little crowd, maybe not the best. A little spaced out. Saturday shows were fucking incredible. Crowd was on fire the whole time. It was really, really fun. So that's a win. If I seem a little loopy, I did the second show last night. We finished at about 11:30. That's when I got my check and started. That's when I got my check. I immediately drove back to Los Angeles from Tucson, which is almost Mexico, almost New Mexico. I drove 8 hours. I got in, and you get an hour back. Because they don't do for some reason they don't do daylight savings time in Arizona. It's bizarre. It's the same time there. They just don't change the time. So when you cross the border, you get an hour back. I got in at 6 a.m. and my girlfriend was like, she was very happy that I was there, and I was all jacked. I drank a bunch of coffee, and I had all these ideas about my career. I had all these genius ideas on the drive home, and she's like, "This is kind of scary." Yeah, I literally had 6 hours of epiphanies the whole way home, and she was like, "What the fuck is going on with you?" And it actually reminded me of how I used to feel when I was in college. I had maybe a little bit of hypomania when I was in college, and honestly, in hindsight, that's the most successful I've ever been. So maybe I should get back to hypomania and just making weird choices and getting amped up all the time. I used to wear a Pokemon backpack on campus. I would wear a bright orange Caltech sweatshirt, and I won the psychology award for the best thesis. I was like a lunatic. I was running around. I was having sex with everybody. I was fucking getting up in front of classes and talking. I remember I got up in front of I took a nutrition class in a huge hall. She was constantly having me come up. That was the beginning of me doing stand-up. I would go up in front of 300 kids and then just kind of start doing bits. Yeah. And it's because I was like a lunatic. I was jacked. I was 6 hours of caffeinated epiphany high for a few years of college. And I did better than I've ever done. And I've been in LA for 6 years. I've never gotten anywhere near to that level of joy that I had on that drive home from Tucson to Los Angeles, high on caffeine in my car. It felt like I was on meth or something. It was crazy. It was very fun. I mean, I think that, in Arizona, there might be a little bit of a contact high, like a meth contact high, because everybody's on meth. The second night I was there, I didn't have it in me to go back. In hindsight, I should have stayed at the Comedy Condo with the headliner and the feature. It was really, I didn't know that I could do that. I didn't know where they were staying or if they would let me do that. So I just went, I got a really cheap motel room because I just didn't want to drive. And I was like, I want to get some fucking sleep. It was, with tax, I think it was still under $80. It was nothing. So it was a bad motel. Scary, actually. I was checking in to the motel. and a lady with one tooth came in and asked if we had quarters. You guys got quarters? Quarters? No, she was staying there. It wasn't like, oh, there's a beggar. There's like a beggar woman. Oh, please help me. Please. No, it was like, we're all equals because we're all staying here. Does anybody have money for me? And she's obviously on meth. I had already paid the bill. And then this lady with one tooth runs in and I'm like, why am I staying? I should not have paid for this. They're just finishing running my card. And she's like, what's up, guys? With one tooth. Kelvin, you got to stop tagging my jokes. He just said buyer's remorse. Yes, that's called buyer's remorse. What are you, a textbook for my podcast? Just defining terms. Yeah, it was a sketchy hotel. I was in my car talking to another producer who I don't pay on the phone, actually. Chris, great guy, also works for free. And I honestly, with him, I'd say I get a little more than what I pay for, but I still, doesn't work for me. So I'm on the phone with him talking, and I'm sitting in my car, and I watch a couple guys in ski masks go underneath a fence and then walk underneath a highway. And I was just like, what the? And they're staying at the hotel, by the way. These people come out of their rooms and go underneath the fence across underneath the highway, the underpass or overpass. Like I said, I was up 6 hours. If I misspeak, you should be blown away that I'm not misspeaking this whole fucking episode. I slept for 4 hours last night, and I started sleeping when you woke up. So think about that. I see that happen with two people, and I'm like, that's weird. Where the fuck are they going? And then, guess what happens next? Two more guys, ski masks, go under a fence. And I'm looking at that, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And then one of them looks back at me. And I was like, geez, did I just make eye contact with this like murderer? Or this guy who's like cooking meth or something? Who knows what they're doing? It's probably what they were doing. They probably had like a van parked in the middle of nowhere and they're cooking meth and sleeping at the hotel. That's what they do, right? They cook meth in vans, like in the middle of the desert. It's from the very small amount of Breaking Bad that I've seen. And also, this is a hot take. I do movie reviews on this show and TV reviews. Breaking Bad is a bad show. All of you guys who think critically acclaimed, it's so good. Anyone who like knows the difference between good, well-written dialogue, well-developed characters, and bad ones, it's a bad show. It's a very, very bad. The idea that an elite biochemist or chemist who went to Caltech with a bunch of people and is like a genius would then be teaching high school in New Mexico. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I haven't watched enough of the show to understand the story. That would never happen. That would never happen. That guy could make $1 million a year working at Genentech, passive income almost. He goes in 3 days a week, and he's teaching retards in New Mexico. I shouldn't have said retard. He's teaching fucking public high school chemistry in New Mexico when he has the background that he has. That's unheard of. That would never. So the whole premise for this show is doesn't make any sense. And each episode, the story is fine. It's a good story. Once you get past the entire genesis of the story, which doesn't make any fucking sense, each episode is fine. Like, it rolls out pretty well. It gets exciting. There's I understand why people got into it, because they just don't know how having an advanced degree in chemistry works, which is the whole fucking point of the show. The dialogue is horrendous. It's so robotic. It's just like not how people talk. It's not like, watch The Sopranos and then watch Breaking Bad and tell me that Breaking Bad is not a poorly written show. Please do that for me. It's beside the point. I was just talking about meth. Oh, what I'm saying is I don't know where they cook meth because I couldn't get through Breaking Bad. If it was a better show, I would know a lot more about cooking meth. That's the whole point of the fucking show. And I think it sucks, so I don't know anything about meth. You at home, you watched every episode. Write in. Tell me how to cook meth, because you obviously learned it from Breaking Bad. What you think is one of the best shows ever made. Wrong. It's not the worst. It's not a soap opera. It's not Days of Our Lives. It's just not good. It's not quality. It's not quality TV. It's not anywhere near film. My point is, I think those guys were cooking meth. But so the guy with the ski mask looks back at me, and I'm like, oh fuck, he saw me, or maybe he didn't. Maybe he's just like looking around. Then he looks back again, and I'm like, I'm gonna die. He looks back once, and I was like, that's a coincidence. Looks back a second time, and I moved my car because I was like scared. I was like, he's gonna break into my car. He's gonna find what room I'm staying in. I moved it to another side of the parking lot just to make sure this guy fucking didn't track me down. But the room was fine. There's a little bit of mold, but that's fine. I can take that for a night. Didn't run into the toothless lady, thank God. Yeah, so that's where we're at. You know, I film with Calvin. I love Calvin. We guaranteed we're going to start about 5 hours after when we said we were going to start. But other than that, I think it's great. And if you book a trip to Arizona with Calvin, just don't expect him to go. Just, you know, hey, we're both going to go do this thing. Just expect that it'll be one of you doing that thing. That's what you should expect, and that's what happened. And it was great in a lot of ways, but that's what it was. And Arizona is a very interesting place, full of some of the shittiest cars on the face of the planet. I mean I know that there's no estate tax. There's like I don't know. It's like Arizona. Like there's less taxes. You're allowed to have a gun. Yeah. Well, I know that in Florida there's no estate tax. I just know that Arizona is a very inexpensive state to live in. That's what I know. And that is pretty transparent based on the cars that people think are legal to drive. I posted it on my Instagram, which is down now. It got hacked or whatever. You know, I'll tell you about that later at some point, maybe. But someone might have hacked in there. But on my Instagram, I was posting photos of the cars I was seeing. There literally was like a car with no bumper and a garbage bag for a rear view window. That's not illegal. You can't drive that. I've literally never in my life, in any other place in America that I've been, have I seen more cars with different colored panels on the cars. They're just bad car. It's like no one is driving like the car that they sold on the lot, or it's very rare. You'll be sitting in like a grocery store parking lot and you hear like somebody's driving in with like their entire front bumper just scraping on the highway. Nobody gives a fuck in Arizona. Except for your cousin. He's doing well. He's a good guy. He's got a couple what are they called? Vending machines. He's got some vending machines. Yeah, you guys are both entrepreneurs. He's got vending machines, and I don't know, something else. Oh, and he rents out his place, his condo, or whatever it is. Well, it's a duplex and a back house, or is that, I don't know. But he rents out all of it. And in Arizona, that means he's making about what, $100? Costs nothing to live in Arizona. I probably should have stayed at the comedy condo, but that's all right. I've been getting some reviews of the podcast. People going like, "Oh, I listen to your podcast," and usually that's a compliment. You go, "Oh, whoa, thank you." I've been running into people, comics, some people who are just around the comedy scene in Los Angeles, who are like, "Oh, I've been watching your podcast," and I go, "Hey, thanks," and they go, "Not good." Not exactly, but they're like, one guy said like, "Oh, I watched your podcast." And I go, "Oh, thanks, man." That's another thing that people do in LA. Somebody basically says hi to you, and you go, "Hey, thanks, thanks." Someone else's joke. I think it's Fahim Anwar's joke, but he's like, LA's the only city in America where if you recognize, or like people expect to get recognized. I forget how the joke exactly goes, but if you go, "Hey man, I saw you," or like, "Hey, look at you," and you go, "Hey, thanks." It's like the only city where you assume people are complimenting you based on something that you've done, because you want to be publicly famous. I wish I remembered the joke, but this dude was like, "Hey, I watched your podcast," and I was like, "Oh, thank you," assuming that he's complimenting it. And he goes, "You don't edit." "Hey, I watched your podcast." you're not really cutting much out. And he's an idiot because you don't cut anything out of a podcast. I mean, have you ever listened to a podcast? They don't cut. The whole point is that it's a free-flowing conversation the entire time. The difference between this one and some other ones is there's no one else here with me. There are other people who do solo podcasts, not that many, because it's hard. Believe it or not, this might look like, hey, he's just talking, and I am, and I'll continue to get better at this. But this is not. Try doing this. Try talking endlessly for 20 minutes, much less an hour. Good fucking luck. People won't only fall asleep during the episode, they will fucking hate your guts. They'll lose respect for you because you'll have no idea what you're talking about the whole time. You won't maintain a stream. Your stream of consciousness won't be good. You won't maintain linear thought. You'll lose track of what you're saying. Your stories won't make sense because you'll forget where you were because you're thinking about what it's like to be doing a podcast the whole time. You're gonna fucking suck at this if you try to do it. And I wish more people try to do it so then they could expect the very low level that I'm doing it at. But no one has tried to do this. And also everybody wants fast-paced stuff now. I talked to this kid outside of Sprouts. There's this kid like collecting money for his school. And I made the mistake of giving him, $10, which I don't, and now I have no money. I'm out of money now. But I gave him some money. I was like, hey, I'll be a good Samaritan. I'm going to give this kid some money. And then I was like, he asked me what I did, and I told him I do stand-up, among other things, write essays for Korean kids. I do a lot of things. And then I was like, do you like stand-up? He's 17 years old. He's like a little Gen Z kid with a bowl cut. He's like a little Gen Z bro kid. I don't know what they call him. Can you look that up, actually, Kelvin? What do they call those little Gen Z kids with bowl cuts? Is that what it is? What does that mean? They call them Zoomers. Is that instead of boomers, it's Zoomers? Gen Z boomer? Is he younger than Gen Z if he's 17? Gen Z. Boom. I have to repeat what Kelvin's saying because he can't hear it. Boomer, doomer, Gen Z. Sorry, millennial, Gen Z, Zoomer. So this wasn't even a Gen Z kid. This was a Zoomer. This kid's got a full bowl cut. I remember kids who I grew up with had bowl cuts and they were embarrassed. Now kids are like going to the barber asking for a bowl cut, which is bizarre. Okay, so Kelvin was wrong. Gen Z is Zoomer. So this kid, I go, do you watch stand-up? And he goes, no, man, it's too slow. And I was like, that does not bode well for the comedy industry. For stand-up, that doesn't bode well for stand-up comics. You watch stand-up? Too slow, man. And I was like, what do you watch? He goes, sketches, man. It's got to be fast. It's got to happen fast. He watches TikTok sketches. And when he says that when he sees someone doing stand-up, like talking long form, telling a story. If someone's starting to tell a story, he goes, too slow, man. Hey, I was at the store. Too slow, man. Got to be fast. He's Mexican, by the way. That's why I'm doing that voice. Yeah. Too slow, man. Yeah, so that was disheartening. I'm devoting my entire life to something that is too slow, man. Not good. There are also young kids who, Kelvin, you got to stop, man. You're off camera and no one can hear what you're saying. Kelvin's trying to help out, and if he had a mic, that would be fine, but he doesn't. These kids, they want the problem is that everybody knows this on some level, but the phone is fucking up their brains. You guys know this. They get too much stimulation from their phones. They get too much stimulation from the video games. Dopamine rushes. They're just seeing tits on OnlyFans and then like sketches and then another man on the street with tits, other tits. It's just like they're scrolling through the most stimulating stuff in the world, which is the near naked female human body, and then just like colors and lights and money and fast cars. It's too much. The level of stimulation needed to maintain their attention is too high to maintain for an hour, which is what you do stand up for. I mean, I can't even. That kid watching this podcast, I mean, he's already jumped out of a window or something. I don't know what he's doing at this point. He wouldn't be able to handle this. He'd be like vaping and chugging coffee. He's like if we forced him to do this, he would be doing so many different things just to maintain his dopamine levels. If you gave that kid like 7 lines of coke, I think he could handle this. But you'd have to do that. You'd have to get exogenous dopamine in his brain just to get him to sit through an hour of me talking. Definitely. What are these kids like in class? What are they like in school? His teacher's like, so we're going to talk about the Constitution today. Too slow, man. You got to speed it up, man. You got to do a sketch about the Constitution, man. Like, how do they learn anything? Much less enjoy entertainment. Like stand-up comedy is what I used to do. I used to watch stand-up comedy when I didn't want to do my homework in high school and college. I'm procrastinating because stand-up comedy is so much fun to watch. This kid's like, man, stand-up comedy, that's lame. It's like, what about writing an essay? Can you even handle that shit? And they're all on ChatGPT now. But what about your math homework? Like, how the fuck does this kid... You know what I think in hindsight? That kid was just taking money and putting it in his pocket. He's not in school. He can't handle class. He's just a kid trying to make his way lying about how he needs money for his school, pocketing it, paying rent. He's living like Kelvin. He probably goes home for meals and then has an apartment somewhere else because he's been lying to people on the sidewalk. His parents think he's in school. He's just collecting cash, and he's got like a weird apartment that honestly would be good for making meth in. If you don't live in the apartment, why not make meth in the bathtub? Which is what Kelvin should do. That'd be a nice source of income for you with this apartment. It actually is incredible. I mean, Kelvin, at this point, I feel bad because I film here once a week. The setup is awesome. I mean, I wish you could see the lights and stuff. It's an incredible setup. This is better than what I had in my old office where I was co-leasing with a bunch of comics and paying rent. This is a million times better as a set. And we're doing it at Kelvin's apartment. So you think, oh, Kelvin's nice enough to let you use his apartment. He doesn't even fucking stay here. He doesn't live here. So on some level, I think Kelvin might be renting an apartment to let me film my podcast in. That's what it feels like at this point. It's like you're paying a good amount of money just to meet me here and do a fucking podcast once a week. How much time do you spend here? I've been in the bathroom. And I grabbed a piece of toilet paper. He hasn't used he hasn't shit here. He hasn't used toilet paper in this apartment. That means you don't live here, man. You're renting out a studio for me, which is insane. I didn't ask you to do this. I love it, but I love that you're doing it. I didn't ask for it, and thank you. It's fucking insane what you're doing. The way you live is insane. Hey, I got some bad news. We have to leave in 2 minutes. I'm not going with you. It was a good trip. It was all right. It would have been nice to film the shows, but it was all right. Yeah, it's disheartening. It is disheartening. And you get the reviews. You don't edit it. What do you want me to do? Fast cuts for a fucking hour of podcast? The whole point is that you're listening. Honestly, you know what the point of this is? I'm learning how to be engaging and funny on my own with nobody around for an hour. You think how much easier is it with people giving you feedback in an audience? You can ride the wave of the adrenaline of an audience laughing if it's going well. And if it's not, if you're bombing on, I'm doing an hour right now of what it feels like to be bombing on stage. When you're bombing on stage as a comic, you're getting no feedback. And if you can maintain your energy level and timing and still be funny, you're going to be a great comic. That's my rationale for doing this. I'm trying to get better at stand-up comedy. So anyone who's like, hey, why don't you edit it? Why don't you go fuck yourself? I'm trying to get good at stand-up. How about that? And it's called Ben The Menace. So I'm allowed to lash out at you. Hey Ben, why is the go fuck yourself? How about that? That's what I should do. Someone starts asking questions about the podcast. You fuck yourself. How about that? He was like, yeah, it's better with other people usually and I'm like, no, you know what it is? You know what a podcast is with more than one person? A waste of fucking time. It's just comedy masturbation. You guys just jerk each other off. It honestly is kind of incoherent. It doesn't make much sense the whole time. You're kind of funny. You do a lot of callbacks on things that people said earlier in the episode. It's fucking redundant. Have you listened to a podcast that was not a solo podcast recently with like a group of people? They're just saying the same shit over and over again. There are a handful that aren't like that, But if you listen to one episode from 3 years ago and then listen to one that's current on a bunch of very popular group comedy podcasts, it's the same shit. I don't know how and honestly, I think people, it's the opposite of the kid who needs all the stimulation. I think people are just lazy and they're like, I'm bored. I have a job where I move boxes around at a warehouse. I listen to podcasts all day. And, there's a new episode of Fill in the Blank. I'll listen to it. Notice I'm not naming the podcast because I'm not going to tell you which ones are bad. But you can read between the lines. You know which ones they are. There's like 4 people. One of them is like the famous one, and the other ones just kind of laugh at everything they say. It's not good. It's not an even playing field. When there's one guy and like where you get fired if you don't laugh at the famous guy. Oh, that's a good dynamic for a podcast. You know what that's called? A dictatorship. That's a comedy dictatorship. We might as well have a fucking podcast run by Stalin. The Hitler podcast. Yeah, honestly, it's an exaggeration, but it's not that far off. Hitler is sitting behind a mic, and he goes, he goes, did you hear the one about the chicken crossing the road? And they are already losing their minds because the Führer is going to kill them if they don't laugh. And again, read between the lines. Think about your favorite comedy podcast. There's a Führer on some of those. It's not a good dynamic. And when you're alone, there's no Führer. When you listen to the people who are completely solo, there kind of are some Führers who are alone because they have their producer who's like their little bitch. Kelvin's not my little bitch. I'm in Kelvin's apartment. I'm begging Kelvin to let me do this at his apartment. I'm not in charge of anything. He makes more money than I do. This guy's sitting behind a camera helping me put this stuff together because he's a nice guy. He drives a fucking Tesla. I have a used car out there. I'm on the Joe Biden bronze plan. I pay $1 a month for healthcare. I'm not in a good situation career-wise, financially. I'm about to get married. I'll probably get blackmailed at some point. That's going to end. You know what I mean? Like it's all going to end at some point. Kelvin's going to have a good life. My life's a ticking time bomb. My life's almost over. And you guys are like, well, yeah, but that guy laughs at everything. No. I'm basically here alone doing what it would be like to, like experiencing what it would be like to bomb in front of an audience and trying to be entertaining despite that. And then you guys are like, why don't you edit it? Why don't you go fucking edit your own podcast, you piece of shit? The guy who I'm thinking of who said that probably doesn't watch a lot of podcasts and doesn't know any better. And he's a very nice guy. I don't think that he really he didn't mean it the way that I took it in, but that's how I took it in, you fuckface. That's how I interpreted what you said. So go fuck yourself. Seriously. If you don't have anything nice to say about my podcast, why in God's fucking name would you say anything? Unless you have some real critiques. But who is in their first 3 years of stand-up has a legitimate critique on anything, much less my podcast? Ask a comic in their first 3 years of stand-up what they think about anything. I'm going to tell you what it's going to be. Moronic. It's going to be really bad. Hey, what do you think about the Golden State Warriors? Their take won't be good because their brains all jumbled up from being traumatized and bombing and learning how to do stand-up. They don't know how to think about anything. When I was 3 years into stand-up, I was just like seeing prostitutes. I was being an idiot. I was on dating apps. I was seeing prostitutes. I was drinking. I was doing Molly sometimes. I was living with 3 19-year-old girls in an apartment. I was borderline suicidal. I was working as a personal trainer, still not like blowing the money I was making from personal training on prostitutes. I was living a lie. I don't know if I was living a lie, but I was having a rough time and not thinking straight. When I first started stand-up, I was in such a panic. And I was in a fugue panic state for a lot of reasons, mostly because remember when I was talking about that hypomania that I felt in college? Part of the reason I felt that hypomania is I was on drugs. You're wondering, hey Ben, how do you summon that up in yourself? You just take drugs. That's how you feel manic and get in front of lecture halls and start doing bits. You're on something. That's how you do that. And I wasn't on normal shit. I wasn't on the shit that you think I was on. You're like, oh, Ben, did you do coke in college? No, what am I, some fucking frat guy? No. I got a grant to do psychology research over the summer at Vanderbilt. It was like a nice solid amount of money for me. And I ordered thyroid hormones from Thailand. And if you take enough of that shit, let me tell you something, you feel awesome. High as a kite. I took the wrong dosage. I was taking I convinced myself this is what a neurotic Jewish guy who's like sort of into health and fitness is going to end up doing. This is what a muscle Jew will do, which was definitely my background. I played sports in high school. I competed in Olympic weightlifting. My name's Ben Herwitz. That's a muscle Jew. I convinced myself that I had low thyroid, and I took some of my grant money. I was living in a tenement in Nashville, Tennessee. My neighbor came out of his apartment multiple nights with a gun. Yeah, and also had a baby. He would walk his baby, and he was married to this girl who was going to the university. It was bizarre. The whole thing was bizarre. But I ordered thyroid hormone, T3, T4, like desiccated thyroid from Thailand, which I heard was a good way to do it because it was cheap. It wasn't that expensive. Shipping costs aren't cheap. It's coming from fucking Thailand, but otherwise it was all right. And I just took way too. I didn't know how much I was supposed to take. I just took a ton of it, and I like took too much of it for a long time. I was flying high for a year, minimum 2 years. And there are ups and downs. When you get that high, you're going to go low too. But like the life of a college student, you can handle it. Like you're not working a 9-to-5 job every day. You're not supposed to be that responsible. I was able to handle extreme lows and extreme highs and kind of just get by on the extreme highs. I'm on fire, and I happen to be giving a speech or I did some guest lectures when I was TAing, and you kill it, and they're like, hey, this guy's great. Let's give him a good grade in the class. Let's let him do some honors research. And then you win an award, and people are like, oh, that's even better. I was just high the whole time. That's why I was like, whoa, I love psychology. No, I was high. Psychology is not that interesting on a lot of levels. It's not. Drugs are. Definitely. I don't even know where I was going with all that. But the point is, highs and lows. Oh, so then I got off of that stuff because I was like, I don't think this is healthy, experiencing these kinds of highs and lows. I don't know if this is so good for me overall. I also had like an issue with my heart. And I ordered some like dimethyltryptophthalate. Have you heard of that for like weightlifting? I ordered that from Germany, and I was doing that, and I was fucking jacked up and I snorted that and was like exercising on that. Not Coke. Everything I was getting was cheaper than Coke, but this stuff gets you high as shit. And I got off of all of it, and believe it or not, crippling depression. Getting off of all that stuff, you don't feel good because your body doesn't know how to generate hormones that make you feel good or neurotransmitters that make you feel good. And I was just like a wreck for years. I like barely got out of grad school alive. Just like couldn't function. Went home, was waiting tables, wanted to kill myself, got really fat. And then I was like, fuck it, I'm just going to move to LA. I got to pursue I got to do something I'm excited about. I'm going to pursue stand-up comedy. But I wasn't in a good place to do that. I wasn't like firing on all cylinders. So when I started stand-up, I honestly like I couldn't even get into my own internal monologue. I couldn't even begin to write a joke or think about what I was going to say. So I'd improvise everything I said on stage. And my point is, if you had talked to me in those first 3 years, you'd be like, oh, this guy's like about to lose his mind. There's something seriously wrong with this guy. He can't function. Sometimes he gets on stage and he does well just because he makes up stuff in the moment. But he's like, the world is burning behind him. He doesn't even know what's happening. Because I couldn't do it. I pawned my computer to go see prostitutes. I was also, and when I talk about seeing prostitutes, I don't mind doing it because it's something I did. I was addicted to a handful of things. You know, I mentioned the hormones and weird shit I was ordering. I was addicted to exercise to some degree. I drank a ton of alcohol in high school and into college a little bit and stopped eventually. I was overdoing a lot of shit. And then just sex became another thing I was overdoing. So I wasn't just seeing prostitutes. I was using grant money to see prostitutes occasionally. That did happen. But I also went out. When I was in Chicago in grad school, I went out into the city and fucked civilians. I did that too. People who I didn't pay for sex. You think, oh, that's sad. He only paid for sex. No, I paid and I didn't pay. I don't know what. I just wanted to come. That's what a sex addiction should be called. I want to come. And honestly, I want to walk a tightrope before I come. That's what a sex addiction is. I want to be in a dangerous situation. I want to go to a bar and pick up someone else's girl. I want to go there's a woman talking to a man. I'm going to see if I can have sex with that woman. That's what a cool, as a 23-year-old, what a cool way to come. Think about that compared to being at home masturbating. I know people are like porn addicts. I'm like, what the fuck's wrong? How sad are you, dude? How sad. And I think some of those people maybe like grow up in religions that don't let them do anything, and they're like, the only outlet is secret. I do think a lot of the people who have porn addictions, I do feel sorry for them. That's a rough life. Just being at home jerking it all the time. I actually went to a Sex Addicts Anonymous meeting once, and the first guy was like, yeah, man, I just love going to the store, picking out porns to watch. And I'm like, I shouldn't be here, dude. I have no respect for any of these people. This guy's worse than me. I'm having sex with live women. This guy's at home getting excited about VHS tapes. Like, fuck that. I think a lot of people who, and this guy was not the case at the SSAA meeting or whatever, SAA meeting. I think a lot of people who are addicted to porn or some are like living in very sheltered environments. They grow up Mormon. They grow up Hasidic Jewish. They grow up blah, blah, blah. And they're not allowed to even, God, as far as they're concerned, doesn't let them lust after a woman. You know what I mean? Yeah. And they're like, they feel all these urges because that's a biological urge. You're supposed to want to have sex. You're supposed to be turned on by tits and vagina, gaping buttholes. You're supposed to be turned on by that. I mean, not necessarily gaping butt, but some people love that. You're supposed to be turned on by the female nude body, and they're not allowed to be turned on. So then they all have iPhones and they fucking, go like hide in a room somewhere and just masturbate. And that's I get that addiction. But if the option is to, if you grew up like me, if you grew up in San Francisco, if you grew up Jewish in San Francisco, atheist and gay and Chinese, that's how I grew up. It's a bit I did on stage in Tucson, killed. They love the Chinese part because big racists down in Tucson. They just don't have any Chinese people. I think it's just funny to bring up Chinese people in Tucson. They have no Chinese. It's Mexican, white, and the white there is red. I'm probably a little red because I got sunburned down there. Yeah, it's like grizzled, deserty whites, and then just regular Mexicans. They can handle it. Mexicans are supposed to live like that. And good people. I love that. I mean, they were great at the shows, actually. It's the coolest thing is like you get off stage and someone like grabs your shoulder and they're like, "Great job, that was great!" Like immediately after the set. But that didn't happen to me. No, it did. It didn't. I'm joking. That would be cool if that had happened. No, it did. And it's great. It's a great feeling. And that anyone who's nice enough to do that is a nice person. That person happened to be in Tucson. Not a coincidence. She looked like she was inside a lot. Not grizzled by the desert. She was a very white person. No, I'm just kidding. That was not. It has nothing to do with it. But she was nice. She's from Tucson, and there are nice people out there. So I went during the depressed lows in Chicago when I was in school. I definitely was like pursuing sex a lot with, like I said, with civilians, with prostitutes. I just wanted to, like I said, I just wanted to finish, but I wanted to walk a tightrope. That's where I was. I wanted to walk a tightrope to get to that point. So the most difficult. If I'm going to go try to hook up with a woman, the most difficult hookup possible. That's ideal. Like my mom is visiting me and we're at a grocery store. I'm gonna fuck someone in the grocery. No, I'm just kidding. But I would sometimes go try to hook up with women in the grocery. Like I would go to like meet someone to get their phone number or something, or at a bar. They're with a guy. Maybe there's a chance I can do this. Or like, there's a bunch of girls. How do I do that? That was very exciting to me, and it was also exciting to me to be like hungover and go pay a Chinese woman to jerk me off. That was also exciting. It was all exciting. To go take a train to a bad neighborhood and then go have sex with a prostitute. That was exciting. It was all exciting. I couldn't help but get excited. But what does that mean? What a person who's excited by that, who like needs some sort of validation or somebody touching that, what does that mean? Severe depression. That's a very sad person who needs other people fondling them to feel okay about themselves for 3 minutes. What is sex? Sex it barely lasts. But it feels good neurologically, like you feel everything's on fire because you think you're making kids. As far as my brain is concerned, or as far as my biology is concerned, I've probably had, if we're not going to include masturbation, I've had like 500 kids. Maybe not quite, but a lot. I've had a lot of kids, and you're like. The way you're programmed, your Paleolithic brain is like, I'm fucking populating the world, baby. How awesome is this? And that's probably why you get so jacked up when, a Cuban prostitute wearing fishnets jerks you off while holding your balls just in case you make a move. Because she can rip your balls off if you do something weird. I heard they do that in Amsterdam. I've never been to Amsterdam. They'll do everything with you, but they're holding on to something the whole time. I'm like, that kind of takes something away from the experience, doesn't it? Can't even relax. What fun is that? I don't know where I started with this or how I got to all this sex shit. But I think that's yeah. No. I just don't really even know where it began, but I like where it went. And I think we're gonna move on to our final segment here. Where are we? Like 50 minutes? Yeah. Almost. We still have 38 minutes left. No, we don't need that. Kelvin, my producer, if you don't remember, I was talking about him earlier. The one who canceled on me to go to Arizona. He loves just burning the candle down to the very bottom. That's his favorite thing. He's just like he's like. I'm like, how are we doing on time? And he's like, well, if we're going to use all of the battery power, we have 38 minutes. It's like, we don't have to use the whole fucking thing. He loves that. He's like, we have 1% left. Keep going. I'm like, no, it's going to cut off. That's what he usually does. I'm like, how are we doing on 2 seconds, 3 seconds? Use it. Use the 3 seconds. Why do I have to use the time? Let's just move on or end it or whatever. Like, I don't understand your obsession with getting to the bottom, drinking the last drip of water in the cup. Why? Why can't we like plan ahead a little bit? He loves this. There are people like this. There are people who like need everything to be last minute. I get it. That's it. That honestly, remember I was just talking about like getting off on, people are touching my balls. There's a woman. Could I get that woman to touch my dick? She's talking to a guy. Maybe I can get her to touch my dick tonight. That's exciting. You're like, your version of can I get that woman to touch my dick is, can we get down to 1%? Can we keep recording until past 1%? That's Kelvin is getting. It's a smaller dopamine rush. But it's still a dopamine rush. Can we get down to the bottom? What if I'm 30 minutes late? Can we still do the pod? What if I'm 3 hours late? Can we still do the podcast? That's what's going on in Kelvin's head. Kelvin's not actually jerking off, but his brain is jerking him off. Can I still do it if I'm not there yet? Kelvin has how stereotypically talent, like Marilyn Monroe might be late for something because she's like, I'm a Hollywood actress. I'm so talented. I might not be on time, or she's in her trailer being a weirdo. You heard stories about Marlon Brando, like being 7 hours late for a shooting. Kelvin has that attitude, and he's behind the camera. Kelvin has the attitude of talent. He's not even on camera. All the talent is there's 2 comics waiting to do a podcast, and the guy filming it is the last one there. Kelvin, it's bizarre, but you're the only behind-the-scenes guy I've ever met who has unbeknownst to himself, the attitude of talent. It's very interesting. And it's not all bad, man. I mean, it's like, and it's also your apartment. It's your stuff. I don't have the right to complain, but I'm just making an observation. And complaining. So I guess I'll finish up with a segment that I like to end with. We're gonna start naming it. I didn't tell you this yet. So this final segment where we do some Q&A, it's gonna be called "Ben Changed My Life," and I actually have a song that's gonna go with it too. I don't know where Chris is gonna put the song, but we could say like, "Hey guys, are you ready for our final segment? Ben changed my life." And then there's gonna be like a banner and a song. That's what I'm thinking. And I don't have any questions ready, so I think if Kelvin has a question, he'll say it into the mic. Do you have like a dating question or something like that? Anything recent that's come up? I've also been shitting on him the whole episode. He's gonna be like, "Fuck you, man! I quit. I'm not even part of this anymore." Okay. Try to think of a question. I can check. Oh no, I don't have Instagram right now. Almost got hacked. Any sort of lifestyle, dating. It could be a nutrition question. It could be a workout question. It could be dating. I think that's probably my wheelhouse. Who are we going to call? Okay. Call your buddy Nick for Ben Changed My Life. Chris, we might have to cut some of this out. I'm sorry, but we're going to be waiting on a question from Nick. What's his deal? What's going on with him? Is he... Well, but did he have something that came up or? No, he probably has questions. Okay, you don't have anything top of mind? I think Kelvin's nervous about divulging too much about himself. I've been talking about his apartment. He thinks his family's going to watch this show. Your family's not going to watch the fucking podcast. Here, film. No, here you're just talking. Okay. Hey, Nick, can you hear me? Here, Kelvin, your phone is so dirty. Did you bury your phone? It looks like it was underground. So Nick, I'm assuming Kelvin didn't tell you anything. You're on my podcast right now, and he thought that you might have a question for the Q&A segment, like maybe something about dating or lifestyle. We need a question.
All right. You can put me on the spot because I was like, I hear.
Yeah, well, that's Kelvin's style. He wanted to put you on the spot.
All right. I guess since I'm not too familiar with the Bay Area.
Oh, okay.
We'll ask, what's the difference between like San Fran lifestyle and LA lifestyle?
Okay, that's a reasonable question. Thank you, Nick. I appreciate it. I'm going to have to let you go, or at least to give you over to Kelvin. Okay, so I don't know if you guys heard that at home. Nick just asked, what's the difference between San Francisco lifestyle and Los Angeles lifestyle? I'm from San Francisco originally. Like I said, I grew up gay in San Francisco. And now I live in LA. You know what the major difference is? I was actually just talking to my girlfriend about this. Rich people in San Francisco, and it's because of tech. This tech happened after I finished high school, but because of tech, there's a lot of money in San Francisco. And there's always been a lot of money in LA because of the entertainment industry, a bunch of different stuff. LA is a big city. Rich people in San Francisco downplay their wealth. They hide it. It's embarrassing. It's like silly. They drive Priuses, and they like, not everybody, but a lot of them are like, it looks stupid to show everybody how rich you are. And in LA, people are like, it's stupid not to show everybody how rich you are. That's the biggest difference. The wealthy people in both cities are probably equally wealthy. They have better taste in San Francisco. They're better people, or at least they're just like more. They're able to feel shame in San Francisco, embarrassment. I don't think have you been to Beverly Hills recently? They don't get embarrassed in Beverly Hills. There's people whose eyebrows are just like, it's like, if you're like this all the time, you don't give a fuck. Really nice cars, like stupid. That's all I could say. It's just like, A lot of really smelly colognes that I hadn't smelled in San Francisco. A lot of really stupid plastic surgery that I hadn't seen in San Francisco. A lot of really stupid looking houses. What's the hey? I've worked catering at like really nice houses in Beverly Hills before. Why do you have a driveway that goes in a circle? You know, the half circle driveway, so you can park 3 Porsches next to each other. What's the fucking point of it? Why don't you have a garage? Why don't you put the car in under something? And I know the weather's nice all the time, but you want it to look like you just want 3. You want to guarantee that you have to move 2 of them to get one out, and they're just in front of your house. What's the point of that? Basically, do you want to like beg people to steal your cars? You're just putting them all outside. So the biggest difference, Nick, is that people in LA are stupid. No, I'm just kidding. I do think there's like, I think the IQ is a little higher up north. I hate to break it to you guys, but I think it's a little higher on average. Not 100%, but on average, I think it's a little higher. It's tech, autistic. I've been through this before. And then in LA is a little more like Kardashian, which, you know, they know what they're not bad business people, but would anyone go, oh, you know, they seem like they read a lot. Would you ever say that about the Kardashians? Well-read family. Never. Yeah, I'd say that's the major difference, if anything. And San Francisco, people are smarter, which means they're also, I've been talking about depression this episode, also more depressed. There's more fog. You get a little less sun. People are a little less carefree. People jump off the Golden Gate Bridge. Nobody does that in LA. There's no bridge to jump off of because everyone's fucking hot, getting sunlight on their skin, not reading, waxing their eyebrows, fucking injecting Botox, having sex with children. I don't know about that, but some of that in the entertainment industry, cheating on their wives. There's a lot of like the Hollywood marriage means you're allowed to cheat and have sex with your assistant. There's a lot of that. And I'm sure there's a tech version of that, but those guys are all autistic. They don't know what to do. They're not tech guys are not having great sex or a lot of it or enjoying it. Those guys just want to sex for a guy who works at Facebook is typing really fast. That's sex. It doesn't involve cheating on his wife. And why did that guy's wife marry him? For his tech money. That's the only reason. They're having no sex. They're probably artificially inseminating. There's no, you know, if your autism is severe enough, you don't even want to get touched by another person. You don't want human contact. Just keyboard on skin. That's all you want. Rubbing a computer all over your body. That's what you want. And that's going to be our episode for today. Nick, thank you for the question. That actually gave me some good stuff to talk about. You guys have been great. Check out my socials. I don't have Instagram right now, but I'm sure I'll have it again at some point. TikTok, Ben Herwitz Comedy. My YouTube, please. This is on YouTube. Please like and subscribe on YouTube. I only care about YouTube. I'm trying to say YouTube as much as possible so that YouTube helps me out. YouTube. Watch my shorts on YouTube. And that's it. That's all I can say. Thank you guys so much. And have a good one. Thanks for watching Ben the Menace.